Inflation, surging gas prices. These are the things that are hurting everyone right now, as you know. Gas prices today, $3.91, $3.92 now the national average, up again since yesterday. All of these price increases pushing families to the brink of financial ruin, while food pantries and homeless shelters running low on everything now. I want to cover the violent wave of crime and the mass exodus of police officers, creating a near-perfect storm that has left a record number of people dead in dozens of American cities already this year, and no police officers willing to come fight for it in many places. I want to spend time on the incredibly reckless open border that Joe Biden and his clown car colleagues continue to say is secure. Despite overwhelming evidence from every angle, that is simply not true. And more than 3 million people entered this nation in just the past 12 months illegally when you factor in the gotaways. Yes, I want to spend time on all of those things. They are very important. And with a month to go before Election Day, we will. But today, I need to start on something a lot more pressing, something that would render everything else as completely unimportant. Today, we have to discuss nuclear holocaust. Not because I want to, but because Joe Biden and his weakling administration has brought us to the brink of a nuclear war with Russia. And a situation that the administration and others have openly admitted is the worst nuclear threat we have faced since the Cuban Missile Crisis back in 1962. This is what happens when you have a commander-in-chief who is not in command of anything and is seen almost universally as a weakling with an addled mind and the inability to lead on anything. America is weak, and everyone knows it right now, including our allies and our enemies. Weakness creates the opportunity for war to explode, and the latest example came in the last few days when Joe Biden suffered another unforced error. When he agonized about a nuclear war with Russia behind closed doors at a Democrat fundraising event, but those comments, of course, made news instantly and ratcheted up the temperature even further between Washington and Moscow. President Biden said Thursday, quote, "The risk of Armageddon at the highest level since 1962's missile crisis, as Russian officials allude to the possibility of hitting Ukraine and other European targets using so-called tactical nuclear weapons. This comes after Russia has been on the losing end of a series of battles in Ukraine, and Putin is seen as vulnerable." Biden put it this way: "We have not faced the prospect of Armageddon since Kennedy and the Cuban Missile Crisis, and then threw this in. We've got a guy I know fairly well. He's not joking when he talks about the potential use of tactical nuclear weapons or biological or chemical weapons, because his military is, you might say, significantly underperforming." This is remarkable, considering the New York Times, Washington Post, and a host of other major news outlets in America have been warning us that every Republican since Richard Nixon, if elected, would get us into World War III. None of them did that, of course, and we're talking about Nixon, Reagan, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, and of course they all said Donald Trump would trigger World War III. But as it turns out, Joe Biden and his sloppy, dim-wit, off-the-cuff remarks are what have us here. Nothing else. This is not the kind of thing you discuss in public at all, but Joe Biden has no idea what he's doing, and this kind of dangerous rhetoric has flown out of his mouth a number of times and forced his handlers to clean up after him, explaining, well, that's not really what he meant. But when President Biden says this, after America has already entered, enthusiastically I might add, a proxy war with Russia in Ukraine and dumped $75 billion into backing the country we have no deal to defend at all, then all bets were already off. And it was something Biden's predecessor put on the table to warn Americans and the world. We need to pump the brakes. We need to pump the brakes. Former President Donald Trump warned those in attendance at weekend rallies that a nuclear war is a real threat right now. Listen to this.
In Ukraine, with potentially hundreds of thousands of people dying, we must demand the immediate negotiation of a peaceful end to the war in Ukraine, or we will end up in World War III, and there will be nothing left of our planet, all because stupid people didn't have a clue. They didn't have a clue. They really don't understand. I rebuilt our military. I rebuilt our nuclear power They don't understand what they're dealing with, the power of nuclear. They have no idea what they're doing. I withdrew from the disastrous Iran nuclear deal.
Yeah. Absolutely true. Joe Biden's unhinged comments are the kind that have real consequences. After all, we are dumping billions into Ukraine while ignoring our own problems here at home. It's the kind of situation where Vladimir Putin could decide his back is against the wall. He has nothing to lose because America continues to provoke him and supply money and weapons to his enemy. It comes at a time when the whole world wants to know who attacked the Nord Stream pipelines. The leading suspect continues to be Joe Biden in the United States. Meanwhile, overnight, the Russians unleashed a vicious attack against Ukraine. Missiles launched against numerous cities in Ukraine overnight. The casualty reports we don't know yet. Karl Rove, he spoke up on Joe Biden's nuclear comments, considered them to be, well, untethered. Listen to this.
I was astonished. Why did he think that was useful to do? This is Biden unchained and saying something that is very problematic and difficult for his people to deal with because there is no new intel. There was nothing useful to be said about this. It ratcheted up concerns that didn't need to be ratcheted up and made him look, sort of untethered.
Completely untethered. Undisciplined for sure. Undisciplined. An American leader who says things that are outrageous, mumbles other things that are indecipherable and incoherent. Peace through strength, you see. World leaders may or may not have liked Donald Trump, I don't know. But they respected his ability to fight back. They respected his ability to say, we are not going to tolerate this or that. Right now, they don't know what Joe Biden would or would not do. And the escalation of fighting in the last 48 hours has been intense. 2 missiles took out the bridge to Crimea from Russia, creating real problems for the Russians. And then this wave of missile attacks overnight into Kyiv and elsewhere across the country. The war got real again last night. And real again today. And if we don't watch ourselves, we're going to be tangled up in it. And that's the real danger because you have a leader, Dopey Joe, who doesn't know what he's doing at a critical time in world history. We'll have more on this after the break. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Welcome to it.